Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com. In today's podcast, we're going to discuss new rules or disclosures that the SEC has put out for public comment, where they want public companies in the United States to provide additional disclosures around climate change policies. And we know this has been coming for a while, especially if you listen to this podcast, because we've been talking about this ESG agenda being pushed not only in the US, but globally. Most countries around the world have some kind of regulation around this. And it's controversial in the US just because of the politics around it. And also, a lot of it is just, moving numbers around. And all the big four accounting firms say they're going to be carbon neutral or are carbon neutral. But in order to be carbon neutral, you have to have a bunch of offsets. And so that would be part of these disclosures about how you arrive to your climate change numbers in your financial statement. Because whether or not you agree with it, companies are disclosing more and more of it in their financials. And I don't think they're doing it for investors. I think they're doing it because of political reasons, and very wealthy investors and hedge funds and other investment firms are also political. And if they want to push this agenda, they can force it on the company and force disclosures. There's also investment firms that want to sell investment products saying that they sell green investments. And it'll be easier if they don't have to answer to their investors, if they can instead push the burden onto the companies themselves and their disclosures and say, hey, this company disclosed that they're a green company, so we're investing in them. Otherwise, they have to come up with their own metrics of how they selected green investments, and they can be sued upon that. And so it's still a ways to go on this. There's a comment period, and then the rules have to go into effect, and then companies will have a time period to adopt it and implement it. Obviously, the largest companies in the world and in the US would be the first ones that would have to adopt this. And then, this could be overturned by a future, more conservative administration as well. So that's like another thing that could happen. But also, I think that's a reason they're doing it now, because they see that there might be, they need something climate related right now. But there are some people that are against this. For example, the former SEC chairman, he wrote an op-ed apparently saying that he thinks it should be up to Congress to legislate this and not the SEC to push it through administrative means by writing these proposals. But make no mistake, the big four accounting firms are behind this as well. They're going to make a lot of money around this because there's confusion, but also there's this adoption time period, as with anything else. And this is when the big four accounting firms make the most money, because they're not likely to. Everybody's confused in the beginning. There's ways to get out of errors. It's when these rules get mature that the big four accounting firms start being sued by investors over being misled. But that's a ways down the road. People will probably sue over these rules as well. But in the meantime, the big four accounting firms can take it to their clients and consult on it and start earning the fees today. So to think that this is only one-sided and it's just climate change people, that's not true. It's also big four accounting firms. The big four accounting firms are pro-regulation because it means more work for them. But we talk about this a lot on this podcast, the ESG stuff, because it's a growing market, at least for the time being. And if you're interested in that stuff, then it's going to only grow. And there's comment letters. It's going to be interesting to see what comes out of the comment letters, because people are going to bring up the issues they have with this and the potential areas of improvement. And that's where people can really improve their or build their careers. And also, there's a lot of people in the climate change industry that, there's not a lot of jobs or high paying jobs, But if you're a climate change person and you can't necessarily find a job somewhere else, this is a place in the accounting industry and consulting industry where you can begin to make a lot of money, especially in the financial markets and regulation of this, and helping companies come up with uh, disclosures of metrics. And if you're already familiar with the metrics of how they should be measuring it, disclosing it, there's going to be a lot of confusion. Even in the big four accounting firms, as with any new product they ever push, they don't necessarily know what they're doing themselves. They propose on these things before they know what to do, and they win the projects, and then they figure it out as they go. And a lot of times the big four accounting firms will be proposing on consulting services where they are the least qualified, but they already have their foot in the door because they're large professional service firms. So that's just something to keep in mind. That we'll be keeping an eye on this and keeping track of it. So make sure to subscribe to this podcast to stay up to date and check out the show notes for useful links. Thanks for listening.